Today on the Daily Dollar, we're going over how FTX went from rising star to imploding supernova. As FTX seems to be insolvent, it's completely falling apart as all the pieces start to come unraveled. I'm sure every one of you have already heard about this incident, as YouTubers switched from sponsoring FTX to absolutely roasting it. This is shaping up to be one of the biggest scandals since Lehman Brothers and Enron of old. As this is all relatively current news, we do not have all the details yet. And in all reality, this will probably take years to completely unravel. And thanks to FTX US going insolvent as well, it is likely that the FBI and SEC will also get involved. However, those investigations and reports will take years to come out. So for now, we're gonna have to work with the information we got. So let's find out how FTX got here, what happened, and where it's going now. Besides bankruptcy court, that is. Because this is actually completely incredible on how deceptive, manipulative, and absolutely irresponsible this company has been. And always, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Now let's dive right in. FTX, for anyone who doesn't know, is a crypto exchange. It is a relatively young one that has only been around for about 2 years. It quickly rose to become the number 2 crypto exchange, only behind Binance. And in that short time, it went from a scrappy little startup to a $30 billion valuated juggernaut. But as of last week, it tried to sell itself for a single dollar, and even that was too expensive. That being said, FTX did not start out as a crypto exchange. Despite technically being a separate company, FTX was essentially an extension of Alameda Research. This was Sam Bankman-Fried's original company, which was a company that focused on crypto arbitrage. And arbitrage, for anyone who doesn't know, is simply buying low and selling high on usually a different market or on a different exchange. Traditionally, this was done on the foreign currency exchange, selling one currency to another country in a different market at a different rate and profiting the difference. But as of late, crypto arbitrage has become a big market as the industry has popped off. And FTX was founded basically to just be Alameda Research's financial trading hub, so they could do their crypto arbitrage more efficiently and with greater speed than the alternatives provided at the time. And apparently, as we know now, there never was a separation between Alameda Research and FTX. So let's back up a minute. How did FTX get to this situation to begin with? And while some may blame Binance for triggering the initial run on the bank, it is not the culprit, it was simply the trigger. The true culprit is the irresponsibility of FTX as a company and the executives involved. So essentially what happened is FTX went insolvent. This means it didn't have the cash on hand to meet the withdrawals of its customers. This is because the company's first and third largest holdings were its own FTT token, which is essentially FTX's equity or shares. While technically not being shares, they act like it. So FTX backed its customers' money up with an unstable token, whose price was completely reliant on the overall crypto industry and the reputation and security of the company, which obviously turned out to not be that secure. So what happened to all the cash that FTX should have actually had on hand? Well, that's where we get to the interesting part. It seems like it went to 3 primary sources. One being the FTT token itself, 2 being its acquisition spree of other failed crypto projects, and third, the most controversial and still unknown part, was apparently financing extremely leveraged positions under Alameda Research's trading firm. So while claiming they didn't use people's funds for absolutely sketchy and risky crap, behind closed doors, and back doors apparently, they funneled money to Alameda Research, who then used people's money to do risky bets, essentially gambling it. And keep in mind, this is not a standard company. This is the product child of Sam Bankman-Fried. The company is organized, ran, and operated by him and essentially his friends, and apparently girlfriends. And oh boy, did they try to hide this between a lot of corporate shell companies, parent companies, and all kinds of legal shenanigans. Like, no joke, this would make Wall Street blush. And to be honest, this is a major red flag. Any company that makes it this hard to keep track of what they're doing and how their operations work doesn't want people to know, and that's usually not a good thing. Not being ran out of a central location is why I originally never considered FTX as a viable exchange. Because for a firm's deposits to actually be backed, it usually needs to be backed by a country. And for that to be the case, it needs to be located within the country. That's why as a US citizen, I only have a few options to choose from. because Binance is similarly structured to FTX. The only difference is that its founder seems to be more responsible, but to be honest, that's very speculative as well. We'll get back to the other exchanges at the end. So FTX blew money on failing crypto projects. They smuggled money out the back door to their other company. And they held people's money in reserve backed by a coin that is essentially a share of their company. It's no wonder even Binance knew it couldn't save this. They backed out of a $1 deal for the number 2 exchange in literally one day, which is not only shocking, but also absolutely terrifying. In the week leading up to FTX's insolvency, CZ, the CEO of Binance, stated that he was selling his FTT tokens. This started a panic selling, which resulted in FTX not having enough cash on hand to meet the withdrawals. Then a day later, Binance agreed to buy FTX for $1. However, this was non-binding. And then one day later on Wednesday, Binance backed out of the deal because even they didn't have the resources to cover the gap in the books. Now FTX and FTX US have filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And that is essentially the story so far with FTX, at least the confirmed story. Sam is currently under house arrest essentially in the Bahamas, although he is apparently being monitored. That being said, some believe he fled to Argentina, but at this point that is all complete speculation. What isn't is that the US Justice Department is now getting involved. They have started up an investigation to find out what is happening, what went wrong, and who is to blame. With the access and reach they have, I'm sure whatever they find is going to be interesting, as they will be investigating the relationship between FTX Exchange and Alameda Research. Along with that, they're going to be investigating what happened to the funds and how they were handled. Because if it turns out the funds were lent, then this opens a whole new can of issues for Sam, ones that might possibly land him in jail. At the heart of this issue, you have a lack of transparency. Crypto firms are largely shrouded in secrecy, and while the technology still has a lot to prove, it is largely the humans and the companies behind them that have the most to hide. Because for every noble crypto project, it seems like one is out just for the money. And whether the honest ones will win out and prove the technology is viable, well, that depends on how much damage the bad ones do between now and then. The big question is, where does crypto go from here? While I don't think this is a bullet that puts crypto in its grave, this could very well cause a crypto winter like no other. That being said, it's not the first time that crypto has gone through a dark spell. But between Luna, Celsius, BlockFi, and now FTX, it's looking pretty grim for this one. However, if the money keeps flowing, people have a short memory, so we'll see. Now, how about the other exchanges? Can we trust any of them now, or is everything free-for-all? And that question is extremely hard to answer. I suppose the ultimate safe haven would be to use a decentralized exchange and to use a decentralized crypto wallet. Now, to be honest, Binance is similarly structured to FTX, in that it's relatively decentralized and spread out throughout multiple independent companies, or supposedly independent companies. And while many people put faith in CZ, the CEO of Binance, my biggest concern with that is that what happens when he's not there? What happens when he steps down, or what would happen if he was suddenly incapable of running the company? In that event, you would have to put your faith into the next CEO. And because of the decentralized nature of Binance, it isn't liked by the US government that much. So if you live in the US, Binance might not be the best for you. If you want to know more about the financials of the exchange you're working with, then Coinbase is probably your best bet for that. Being a publicly traded company, you can see the financial condition of Coinbase. Even though the user experience is kind of garbage, but as a US company, it does have that added degree of accountability, as the US government would have full jurisdiction over it. Unless you're avoiding Uncle Sam, that is. Or if you live anywhere else in the world, that might not be the best fit for you either. If you're only interested in investing in the large cap cryptos, then almost any brokerage firm in the US has that availability now. Whether it be Fidelity, Robinhood, M1 Finance, BlackRock, and Goldman Sachs do some behind the door stuff for you as well. However, these all have limited offerings for what you can and cannot purchase. They usually only allow you to invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if you want variety, Coinbase is still the best US offering. But if you're only interested in the big coins, you can pretty much invest anywhere. Gemini also seems like a pretty good option for the US, as it does operate under the tight financial conditions of the New York City Financial Authority. That being said, it is not a public company either. Now, if you live in the rest of the world, I honestly have no idea, as I'm a US citizen and that's not my field of expertise. While I don't think the FTX implosion is going to ruin the crypto industry, This, more than any other event, has brought the attention of regulators. And if regulators deem it too risky to the status quo and to people's investments, then it could get the hammer brought down on top of it. That being said, Congress is usually pretty slow to act, and it still hardly even regulates its internet companies. I hope none of you lost any money in this fiasco, and if you have any thoughts of where crypto might go from here, please put it down in the comments below. And if you like this content, support the channel with a like, subscribe, and keep watching The Daily Dollar.